Ethan Cole had trained in some of the harshest environments the U.S. military could offer. He had crawled across burning desert sand in Nevada, spent nights shivering in freezing California waters, and survived the chaotic madness of Hell Week, the moment most Navy candidates break and quit. After years of pushing past every limit placed in front of him, Ethan believed he had reached a point where nothing could surprise him again. Not pain, not fear, not endurance, not even exhaustion. But all of that confidence began to crumble the moment he stepped off the helicopter onto Sangley Point, the training ground of the Philippine Navy's elite force. NAVSOG. The heat hit him immediately. Not the dry heat he was used to, but a thick, suffocating humidity that wrapped around him like a hot blanket. The air smelled of seawater, engine grease, damp earth, and distant mangroves. And then he saw them, a line of Filipino operators warming up in silence. Their movements were precise, controlled, economical. They weren't bulky or intimidating in size. Instead, they carried the kind of strength built from survival, not from the gym. Compact, hardened, efficient. At the front stood the man Ethan would soon learn to respect more than any instructor he'd ever had. Commander Rafi Sarmiento. Shorter, leaner, quieter, but with eyes that told 1,000 stories. Stories of missions no one would ever hear about. Stories of battles no news outlet ever reported. Stories of endurance that textbooks couldn't teach. Ethan stepped forward confidently and offered a handshake. Rafi nodded, but didn't shake his hand. Instead, he simply said, "Training starts now. We do not wait for comfort." That was the moment Ethan felt the first crack in his confidence. Ethan had done ocean swims before. He had conquered freezing Pacific waters during SEAL training. But the waters of Manila Bay were different. Warmer, heavier, unpredictable, with currents that twisted like ropes beneath the surface. Ethan started strong, powering through the first stretch. But 20 minutes later, he felt the heat draining him. Sweat mixed with seawater burned his eyes. His breathing grew uneven. Beside him, Rafi glided through the water with almost unnatural calm, like he had been born in the waves. He never rushed, never gasped, never struggled. When Ethan finally reached the shore, he collapsed onto the sand, chest heaving, vision blurry. Rafi stood beside him, barely sweating. "This is only the warm-up, Cole," he said. "Strength is not proven by speed. It is proven by consistency." Before Ethan could fully recover, the instructors shouted for the next drill. Ethan had carried logs before, but never through knee-deep Filipino mud thick enough to swallow boots whole. He lifted his log, struggling to move through the sticky ground that pulled him back with every step. His shoulders throbbed, his arms shook. The Filipino operators, however, moved in perfect rhythm. Their steps were coordinated. One team, one breath, one motion. No one spoke, yet everyone communicated through movement. Ethan slipped, face first, into the mud. He braced himself for laughter. Instead, a hand grabbed his arm and pulled him up. It was not Rafi. It was Lieutenant Arvin Delgado, a slim operator with a calm presence. "Stand up, brother. NAVSOG doesn't leave anyone behind." That line hit Ethan harder than the mud. This wasn't a competition. This was a brotherhood. Rope climbs, high walls, balance beams, underwater tunnels. Ethan powered through each one, but the heat drained him faster than expected. His hands slipped on the rope, sweat stung his eyes. His heart pounded so loudly he could hear it echo in his ears. Meanwhile, Arvin and Rafi moved through the course with smooth, almost effortless precision. Not fast, not flashy. Just efficient. Ethan hated to admit it, but efficiency beats strength in every battle. Ethan thought he was ready for jungle training. He was wrong. The air felt like it had weight. Mosquitoes swarmed like tiny drones. The jungle floor was slippery, uneven, and alive with unfamiliar sounds. Every tree seemed to hide something. Every shadow moved. Rafi taught him how to walk silently, how to breathe without alerting wildlife, how to watch birds to detect danger, how to sense wind changes to mask movement. Ethan realized something important. The jungle was not his home, but it was theirs. They were dropped deep inside the jungle at dusk. No food, no weapons, no guidance, just instinct. Ethan tried to rely on his training, But exhaustion made his mind foggy and his decisions slow. His stomach growled, his throat was dry. He felt lightheaded. Raffi found edible plants. Arvin caught a small fish using only stones. They made a fire in under 3 minutes. Ethan stared, stunned. These men didn't just train in the jungle. They belonged to it. When night arrived, the world turned pitch black. Insects buzzed loudly. Branches cracked in the distance. The air grew cooler but remained heavy. Ethan tried to sleep, but Raffi nudged him awake. Out here, sleep is a luxury. Movement is survival. They reached camp earlier than expected, Ethan covered in mud and scratches, but smiling. He had made it. Ethan was taller, heavier, and stronger. He believed he had a real advantage. But Raffi moved like flowing water, smooth, controlled, unpredictable. Before Ethan could land a strike, he was already on the ground. Raffi tapped his shoulder gently. Strength fades, skill stays. Ethan laughed in disbelief. This was the lesson he didn't know he needed. On the final day, the NAVSOG commander called Ethan forward. He expected a handshake. Instead, the commander handed him a NAVSOG patch. The room fell silent. The commander said, "You endured every challenge. You learned humility. You earned this." Ethan felt a tightness in his chest. Not pain, but pride. Not the loud American pride he knew, a quieter, deeper one. A pride earned through struggle and brotherhood. When Ethan flew back to the U.S. base, his teammates asked, "Bro, did you crush their training?" Ethan smiled and shook his head. "No, they taught me," and the room fell silent. Because they saw something new in him, a kind of humility he never had before. Years passed, Ethan became an instructor. He taught recruits the same jungle silence, the same discipline, the same humility that Raffi taught him. Then one day he returned to the Philippines. Raffi was there waiting. They shook hands like brothers. Raffi looked at the NAVSOG patch stitched onto Ethan's uniform. "You kept it," Ethan replied. "I didn't keep it. I lived by it." They trained together again. But this time, Ethan moved with confidence and respect. The jungle no longer rejected him. It recognized him. On his last evening at Sangley Point, Ethan stood on the shore watching the sun slowly sink into the water. The same shore where he almost collapsed years earlier. He understood something. Strength is not noise. Not ego, not pride. Strength is steady, humble, disciplined, compassionate, and Filipino warriors had shown him that without ever bragging about it. As he prepared to leave, Raffi placed a hand on his shoulder. "Brother, wherever you go, remember, you carry 2 families now, the SEALs and NAVSOG." Ethan nodded, eyes shining, because he knew it was true, and for the rest of his life, whenever he faced battle, hardship, or doubt, he carried the lessons of the Filipino warriors who changed him forever.